Hello everybody. Happy Memorial Day for you that are in the States, and I've been reading interesting stories about your family members, and yeah, they're really inspiring. People who've been through times, and yeah, they can teach us so much. Our parents and grandparents, and I love reading those stories. I find them inspirational. Anyway, that is. Oh, right. That's true. That's true. So we are here, and we've been talking about Van Gogh, and I'm going to carry on with Van Gogh because we've had lots of points to take from his work. And you can see above me here, just on the ceiling there is a poster of Van Gogh, and it's basically just the base of a tree. And so, we're looking for subjects, that perfect thing, and I'm so guilty of it. I got up really early this morning and I dragged my husband out of bed. I said, "Oh, there's mist, I've got to get out and take some photographs." So anyway, so we got on our bikes and we biked up to some fields, and taking photographs, and I was down there, with the grass and having a look at all the spider webs and things like that. And then I come back to the studio, and there's a tree trunk by Van Gogh with just some daisies, and he can make just a miracle out of it. So how much do we need to do? So I'm going to get my book on Van Gogh, because as I was looking at it today, and it's funny how things must be subliminal. I've read these books so many times, and this is Van Gogh up close. It was from an exhibition, and I've read it so many times, and subliminal things must stick with you even though you can't remember it verbatim. But firstly, I have been using a lot of these raw linen boards, and some of you have commented. I'm not doing it today, but unfortunately I'd love to. But I've been using a lot of these raw linen boards, which I've been priming with clear gesso and a little bit of marble dust. That's what I did from yesterday with the leftovers. And I'm turning through to my Van Gogh book here, and I've posted the photographs anyway on my personal page. But look at that. There he is, working on raw linen. I mean, how cool is that? Hi, Cheryl from Toronto. Hi, Gail. How cool is that? There he goes. See, he's working on linen. Raw linen, just left it like that. And a lot of his grass paintings were done on raw linen, and he's leaving that colour of the linen to come through. Hi, Libby. To come through in his work, and I've been doing that and really enjoying it. Now I've got this connection with Van Gogh. He was interested in Japanese art, as we have discussed, and much of the inspiration came from an artist that he saw at an exhibition, and this Japanese artist had just focused on a blade of grass. And if you know Japanese prints, there's a lot of woodcuts that just focuses on a few irises and just a very few basic leaves, and they can make a painting out of it, a design, as I'm always going on about division of space. I mean, that's really what they're doing. And if we look at this Van Gogh here, then we're thinking about the division of space with the tree trunk. So it's quite an abstraction, really, but the tree trunk kind of divides the space up for us. And so he writes a lot about the meaning of, and you can look on my page and have a look at those photographs closer, but he writes a lot about the meaning of what the grass has meant for him and why he was using that as a motif in his work. And it relates to his mental condition. I probably have one too, I warn you. But it relates to his mental condition and the sense that he did want to just focus on a few things. The whole big world, the whole big picture was too much for him to take in, and he found life a lot easier to cope with when he just looked at one or two things in focus. And I must admit, during this lockdown, that's exactly what I've been doing. And those of you that have been with me right through it, they'll have seen the studies of the lilacs, the studies of the dandelions, the studies of the apple blossom. It's all been really just slowing yourself down and looking at things in detail, just one or two things. And Van Gogh found that helpful to him to get through some of his issues. But also he was making a political statement or a social statement about how looking at something humble, looking at something that people have overlooked, is actually one of the grandest subjects. It tells us so much that how much there is in something quite simple. And that's what he's really saying with the grasses. And, from the tall oak and the lump of rock to the fern and the blade of grass. Now, a thing like that, not anyone who wants to can feel it or find it. So feel it and finding it were two emotions that he wanted to convey in his work. Not just the fact of painting a blade of grass, but painting the sound that blade of grass made in the field. He's taking it to a synesthetic type of experience, and maybe that's one of the pulls of Van Gogh's work, that there is a synesthetic connection with what he's painting. And these close-up depictions, the dandelions, but when you start looking at the colour closely, there's almost like a carpet-like effect to what he's doing. That doesn't mean I'm going to do that, but I'm just interested in his thought process of how he got to that. So, having gone out this morning, and just down below there you can see a photograph I took of the field as I was riding along, and this time not falling off my bike and making an idiot of myself. But there were a couple of photographs I took actually. One was this one here, which is on my cover page, and I thought it was quite interesting because I looked at that tree and I thought, there's the meaning of social distancing and isolation. There is a tree in the middle of a field, and that's quite a metaphor, really, isn't it? When I look at that tree, it's quite a metaphor. So I thought I would just do a quick sort of oil sketch today. I was going to do it on linen, but I thought I'd do it on paper, just because it felt a little bit more humble. I could just be a little more expressive there. So again, I'm going to be using the straight edge to help me to make some of the marks and lines, because I just find that's very useful. And just using very very simple marks. And I'm going to just dilute the paint with a little bit of solvent, but I can just come in with the straight edge. Actually, I can use a smaller straight edge, slightly smaller pieces of paper. But I can use a straight edge to just kind of think about these linear forms. Here are all the sheep in the fields as well now. Thinking about the linear forms within that landscape. And I might even at this stage just mark in where I want that tree, because it's quite pivotal, really. I've masked off here on the horizon line a sort of a jaggedy edge, which is that in there. Just sometimes it helps decide the how much we want of the trees. The trunk's going to come in here, so there's something in there. And also there's trees in the distance as well. going to mark these in quite darkly. So this is how I might prepare a sketch before I do a painting. I thought rather than just launching straight into the linen, why don't I just do a little sketch of this, an oil sketch of this first, and you know, just find where things are going to be. I want to be able to push and for me this is almost like a drawing. I want to be able to push and pull this composition. I just, you know, push and pull shapes, and you know, where that sort of line is, that's coming quite strongly. And you know, within the field itself too, there are some bands. So let's get some of these in. Bit of a no-tan at this stage. It's just really just darks and lights, and I'm just focusing on what I see as a light value and what I see as a dark value. But I'm doing it in oil paint. I'm doing it in something that's approximating a warm brown. So that dark colour, that warm dark, will sit underneath everything that I'm doing. Then I can take a wipe, just mark in some of this mass tone. Because that, you know, that tone is quite useful. And this working with the darks just helps us to find the composition very quickly like that. That's what working with the dark and light will do. And that's all light and there. Same with the sky. So we have the trees here. Some blue grey, actually. Mark this in here. I'll do that with a palette knife. Strongly. Squeegee. And as I say, it's just sketch. This is just helping me to see, you know, is this where I want the horizon line? Stuff like that. I might do a couple of sketches like this just quickly to get that feeling. Dragging that sky colour now down over this background, except that tree in front. don't really want to get the tree colour up there, so I shouldn't really do that. But we'll just let that dry off a little. Negatively around. Let's discover how that's going to look in there. It's quite nice to find some of the shapes here. So, and the fog's just grabbing that side of the tree. Go back and put the tree trunk in anyway, so that's all right. Let's have a look at the middle distance now. As we know with the camera distorts the middle distance, and you know, we sort of don't get a good reading of it. It just looks, you know, out of proportion. So what I tend to do with my photographs is, you know, I do tend to come down and get a very low profile looking up at a landscape to give me a little bit more foreground. So, you know, otherwise this would have been huge, and then there would have been this photograph would have been just a tiny sliver of the grass in the front, and then would have been this huge middle distance, and then hardly anything really at the back. But actually this was a lot bigger in real life, and you know, I wanted to make some focus of that. Again, I will block in that green, pretty much in a colour value as I see it. So I've got my cinnabar green. If you've been following these demos all along, I use for these landscapes, because it's all the same landscape, I can use a pretty similar colour palette all the way through, because it's just the same landscape. I don't need to be too changing too much with that. So again, I can come in with the squeeze in, because I've got these lovely dark lines in here. It's going to change the tonal value of the paint a little, so it will give me that lovely gradation in colour and the sort of rhythm in the landscape. It's a little darker down here, and a little darker and thicker. Just to lock that in and bring it down a bit so it comes behind. As this is a sketch, I can add a little white into this as well, and it doesn't matter so much. Areas that I feel are a bit brighter, you know, come in with a bit more pure paint. Got a little cad yellow in there now. Just really searching out these rhythms with the light in that field. There. So it's really just banding the grass so it doesn't look like one flat area. It's just nice big fresh grass in there. These are all fields probably planted up now with crops. This could well be a wheat type of crop. Alfalfa is quite popular here too. So as I'm coming towards myself here, this grass is getting a little warmer. And then it'll get cooler back there. So I'm going to add some cooler value greens over the top of that. It's a warmer value green in there. I'm going to add a little bit of the cobalt teal. That's the Williamsburg one, which I really like. Sorry, just bring it into focus there. Gorgeous colour, this cobalt teal. Some really nice greens. I'm going to cool that green down. It's just a little beat that goes through there of that cobalt teal within that green. I'm going to start dealing with the greens up here, and because it's our foreground there, it can be quite dark underneath. I'm just going to again lay this very watery dark green over the top of that, because I can come in with lights over the top. That's quite useful. And then as I'm getting down to the bottom there, I might just put in a few warmer greens in here, just to help with the sense of that foreground pushing over. So this is warm, cool, and then we've got the background there. So, we're picking up that rhythm of the colour temperature through the painting. Just in here, it's kind of a bit of a focal point. And I'm going to have to put some cow parsley in over this. Quite nice just to have some brighter green in there. And here. Almost like the field goes behind as well. That might be quite fun. Let's do that. Okay. That's almost blocked in. We've just got the masking tape at the back to remove, and then we can do all the other fun bits. Just in case there's anything else I need to add. I'm going to start tackling the colours in the grass, because let's get some of that down so you can see how that's going to look. find something like a phthalo green mixed with yellow ochre is quite a nice green in the foreground there. Mix that up so you can see it. Oh, there you go. So you can see it's quite a strong but broken green, and I can add a little, I can make another tone of it using some of the other greens that we've made as well. So, you know, we can break that green up, but it's very useful. Because otherwise the phthalo on its own is quite strong. Yeah, what is your dark green mix? That was phthalo green with burnt umber. So let's just want to get these in, you know, just now. Just they can all be changed later, but I just need to get that in. So. Just carry that over the top. And change the value of it as well as you come into the middle of the painting, where I said, you know, this green is a bit lighter and brighter, so it's quite nice to just layer that in there. And so there's a brighter patch there, and as your eye goes off here, it's okay there. And then I'll get the roller. Just make sure you've got enough just toilet paper or something to clean the roller as you're going. And then I'll start flattening that down, because I don't necessarily want lumps of paint there just yet. And if I want to use that colour somewhere else, then it's on the roller and I can just spread it around. You can see the red in the underpainting also coming through. So just flattening it down a little with the roller just helps to blend the colour a little bit. And I could also run the roller in there as well if I wanted to just you know, use that to just knock that back a bit. This is why I just wanted to leave that masking tape up there for the moment, just so I could have a bit of freedom, because once I take the tape off, it's going to be a very nice clean white line there, and I can put in whatever colours I want. So let's take that masking tape off now. It's helped me just create that horizon line, so I know where that is now. Because these grasses went vertically and this is going horizontally, so it's helped me to keep a little bit of that clarity there. A little bit of that sky colour in through there. I'm going to wipe through for the trunk of the tree. now we're going to do the fog. So we're going to make a velatura that's going to go over the top part of the painting. So that's probably why it looks a little brighter and a little stronger than you might have pitched it, because if you don't have it strong enough, then you will find that there won't be any colour there. So I'm not going to use any medium for this. I'm going to just use straight white paint with a little of my last drop of the Williamsburg Extra Pale. Just because it adds a slight warmth to it. In the old days we used to use Kremnitz white, which was lead white, and lead white had a lovely, oh I used to love lead white. It had a fantastic, lovely, slight warmth to it. It was a fantastic paint, and there are flake white alternatives that you can get, and you know that's really quite nice. Just going to add just a bit more white. And I'll show you the colour when I've mixed it up, so you can see. So what basically I'm making fog, and you know, just adding that veil of fogginess can always come back in. So I've added a tiny touch of King's Blue to that. Okay, I won't move it too much, just so you can see it. Okay, so it's a kind of a pale grey, but there's a warmth to it. And I will get some cold wax. So I'm using the Zested cold wax here, which I really like because it hasn't got mineral solvents in it. It's got a vegetable based solvent in it, and I'm going to just put that on a separate palette. I'm running out of palette knives here. I'm just going to get that out. This is where you can't see the mess I've made here. You will not be impressed. Let me get that wax. You can't see this, but I'm just getting the cold wax out. And I'm just going to layer cold wax just over this. Okay, that's just a layer of cold wax, and I'm rolling everywhere where the fog's going to go. So the fog really isn't sitting too much over the grasses. That's what makes this so interesting. You know, down when you bend down, you can't see the fog, and then when you you know, see the distance, it's all foggy. So it's, yeah, quite like that. Let me keep a bit of tissue because I don't want to get too much green all over the place. And that's not too bad because there's not much green on there. Pretty much as much. The fog kind of just comes into the top 2/3 of the painting there. So I clean the roller, like so, just using the cloth. I'm not using the baby wipes for this because there'd be too much moisture off the baby wipes. I'm just using a paper towel. This actually happens to be leftover toilet paper from COVID. So much good. I can take this roller, clean it, just so the cold wax just helps it to sit over the surface. And it puts this veil of light tone over everything. But you can see why that was much brighter than what I needed. Because otherwise, you would kind of lose everything. You just have to work up a notch with your colour scheme. It's actually easier to do this process on paper than it is on the raw linen, which is why I decided to do it on paper. The raw linen kind of it just does take a lot of the paint. So you can see as I'm coming along now, I'm just taking more of that white off and it's blending into the background like that. Oh, nearly time to finish. And you know, it's leaving this veil at the top. So we actually have, you know, we actually have a foggy landscape there. And I can bring out the tree, which is a darkish green. It's actually a slightly greyish, green, isn't it? It's in the distance. But I can bring this out. Slightly greyish green. And that will sit out over the back of those, or over the front of those, I should say. I'm going to keep that neutralized for what it's worth, and I'll come in a little bit more with the cinnabar green, a little white, and where I feel it needs it, you know, I can strengthen now some of these foggy areas. Use that brush, just depending on where the part of the painting is. I can come in and reinforce now. Because it's further back, then I can go horizontal. But you know, where I've masked it, you get these lovely lights, just as the light is catching that on the horizon. So it's a nice, it's an interesting touch. You don't quite know how that happens. So this is all set up now for me to, you know, start working with the grasses a little bit more and adding more of the greens through there. Yeah, I'll add the cow parsley through there. I'll strengthen the sky, a little bit greyer blue will go in down there. But, you know, I'll just keep this quite subdued because in reality, this bit of green here on those grasses is a kind of a grey green. Okay, and that is brighter. But, you know, colour match wise, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I can just keep working, you know, with a few stronger greens if I want. This green could have been a bit darker and a bit browner, but, you know, it can make the painting a little heavy. So, you know, I can add these beautiful blue greens now over the top of this green, warm green, and the cow parsley. So I'll probably just carry working on that. Yeah. Okay, Sarah, yeah. You probably think, what is she doing? She can't mix colour. But the thing about the whole, about this process is, you know, you have to think one step more. It's if I'm going to be doing a workshop on glazing, and it's the same thing. You have to take a step back with the colour because every time you add another layer on, the colour shifts. So with the Velatura, which I've talked about quite a lot, and just to explain it to people, that the colour has to be a step stronger than you would use, because by the time you put the veil of white over it, you know, that's going to knock it back. So you need it a bit more saturated. Why does cold wax and oil on my palette start getting gummy and dry, and how do I deal with that? You know, cold wax changes according to the climate. And so if you are in a very dry climate, you know, the solvent out of the cold wax will evaporate, and it kind of makes it, it becomes very, almost a bit sticky and dry, which is, you know, kind of what happens to candles. You know, if you leave them out, they kind of go a bit brittle and dry. So you can solve that, Linda? You can solve that, Lindy, by adding a little bit of oil, linseed oil, to that. And I'll show you what I use. And this is a fantastic thing. It's called Clear Painting Medium. Oh, sorry, I'm holding it at the front, holding it the wrong way. Clear Painting Medium, and that will loosen up the wax, and it'll stop it drying and getting that kind of cakey feeling. That's great. Or you know, if you can't get hold of this, you can use some linseed oil as well, and that'll make it. It does make it a little oilier and a little slower drying. So you know, that's a trade-off that you'll have to make. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope that was a little foray into my my fields this morning that I went on. And if you have any questions about painting fields, just drop me a line, and that will be great. All right. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Bye for now.